Welcome to Being Patient Perspectives. I'm Deborah Kahn, founder of Being Patient. We have a great guest today. I love people who are just pushing the limits with Alzheimer's disease. And today we have joining us Dan Jaworski. He trains for IRONMAN and is in incredible physical shape, competes, and hasn't let Alzheimer's be a reason why he would stop. So Dan, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story.
Pleased to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Okay, let's start first. You're about to celebrate your 60th birthday. You told me on January 1st. Happy birthday.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit let's talk about your diagnosis first.
Sure.
Tell me first about how you got diagnosed and when you got diagnosed.
Yeah. In 2019, we were on a family trip, actually in Thailand, and what had happened is apparently I was asking the tour guide the same question over, when are we doing this? And my family hadn't said anything to me about this. And so we get back to Orlando, and my wife and I are driving to a basketball game, it's 3 miles from my house, and I've been there literally hundreds of times. And we're driving, and I stopped the car, and I said, "Where are we going?" And she said, "What do you mean?" She said, "We're going to Rollins College." I said, "I know that. How do I get there?" So that's where I was like, knew something was wrong. And
because, okay, so explain that a little bit to me. This is somewhere that you normally.
I've been to hundreds of times. I've driven there. I'm really good friends with a basketball coach. I know how to get there, like the back of my hand. But at that moment, it's like, I didn't remember how to get there.
And you were in the car driving?
We're in the car driving. I stopped the car and I looked at her and I said, how do I get there? And then at that point, my kids and our wife had kind of seen something and said, we better go to the doctor and get it checked out. And so that's what I did. I went to the doctor, and a phenomenal lady. And it was interesting because very early into our conversation, she says, we're going to prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And if you have a bucket list, you need to start doing it.
Wow.
So I at that moment, I said, okay, well, okay, what do we need to do? Let's go. And then from there, I went down a big, I call it the test gauntlet. And for those that have been down this, they know what I mean by that. There's it's a long, slow process of doing these things. And I can go through kind of a little bit of that if you want.
Well, so before we do that, I just want to unpack this a little bit. Because I mean, you're young, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You're not in your 80s, you're in your 50s. So did you was there a history of Alzheimer's in your family?
There appears to be. And, retrospectively, when you start looking, there was some in there. And actually, my mom and dad are not diagnosed, but I know the signs. So I'm seeing it in them. They're still here with me, though. Yeah.
Have you gotten genetically tested? Do you know if
I've got one of the APOE genes on there. So, yeah.
So you have one copy of E4.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're in your mid 50s-ish, right? And you have this incident, but was it, and obviously your family is noticing there's something not quite right.
Right, yeah.
Was it like a sudden onset, or had this been over a series? I mean, because I think when you're in your 50s, Alzheimer's isn't on your mind, right?
It's not on your radar at all. No, I mean, for me, it was a complete shock. But once I started go down the testing route, that's when I was like, oh crap, because they do they give you the cognitive test is like a 3-4 hour testing thing. And it's all kinds of different things, from numbers to stories, where they're giving you a whole litany of things. Like, Lori and June were out, with their one had a purse, one was wearing earrings, and it was raining, and it goes through all these things. And then you have to kind of recap it at the end. And then there's a whole litany. And like I said, but when I got out of that test, I was like, okay, something is wrong, because I'm not able to do some of these things, which I had never figured that would happen to me.
Were you working at the time?
At that time, yes.
What was your career? Can I ask?
Investment business. So like for me, what I did is I spent my life overseas looking for corporation pension funds and endowments hired me to put money in stocks overseas. So it was pretty cool. Got to go all over the world, and it was very fun.
So, was there a time, I always ask this question in hindsight, not when you realize something might be really wrong that you
Yeah.
had to consult a doctor and get a cognitive assessment, but were there any signs years ago, when you had a career and you were working, obviously with a pretty, high,
No,
intense job?
right. Yeah.
Did anything come up where you thought, maybe this wasn't right in hindsight?
No, not really. And so that's what was so, surprising about this to me. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know it till I went down the testing route, and I, I definitely have some issues. There's definitely some cognitive deficiencies.
What
Uh,
did those tests tell you?
well, it told me that my decision making abilities are somewhat compromised, and other than that, I'm highly functional and all of that. But like for me, I might, if you and I are together for a couple hours, I would probably repeat something to you. I would say something like that, and I might say it a couple of times. So that's about where I am right now on that spectrum. And so for me is to do everything I can to keep that slide from going down.
So, when you said some of your decision making is compromised, what exactly does that mean?
Well, I mean, so for me, if you give me a stack of dates, I will not be able to remember them if you keep adding on. It's like my memory table is shorter. So if you add things to it, something's slipping off. And that's probably the best way to put it on there. So like if people ask me, well, what day are you doing this? And I'm like, I have it on a calendar. I can't really remember that right now.
Did you get further assessment other than the cognitive test? Do you have, plaque confirmation? Did you go further to kind of assess where whether or not you have biomarkers of the disease?
Yeah, I don't really, nothing like that. I am looking at the new drugs that are out there right now. So, and I haven't been because I was waiting to see what else was coming, and it was unclear a little bit on the drugs. They know that it will take care of the plaques, but they don't know if it actually improves cognition. And I've been pretty stable in this whole race so far. I've been able to keep it level, which is a great thing. So I haven't really been willing to take that risk without getting more information. But I'm in that gathering stage right now.
So the neurologist or the doctor you see, they haven't said, let's get a blood test or something
Oh
like that.
yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, I've gone through every test you can have.
But do you know
MRIs,
if you have,
EEGs, neuropsych tests. I got
okay.
blood drawn at 14 vials a shot. You name it.
But have they looked for plaque in biomarkers in your blood? Have you had one of those, the
I,
newer tests?
yeah, I don't remember. I've not had the blood test. So
Right. So you don't know 100% whether there's amyloid in your brain. You've just been
I don't.
diagnosed
No, I don't.
based on the cognitive assessments.
Yeah.
So tell me a little, okay, so let's go to the really like best part about this interview. You're an
Oh,
Ironman. You
yep.
work out all the time, you exercise, you compete.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like before you had a diagnosis,
Yeah.
and did they tell you you have mild cognitive impairment or are you diagnosed
Yeah.
with Alzheimer's? What are you diagnosed with exactly?
Yeah. So I was out for a run one day, and the phone rang, and I carry my phone with me because I like to listen to music. And it was my doctor, and he said, I remember these words verbatim. He says, "I'm sorry to tell you this. You got mild cognitive impairment consistent with Alzheimer's, likely to lead to dementia." And he also added to this. He said, and he said that, but we can't be 100% certain without an autopsy. And I said, Doc, I'm going to take your word for it. We're not going to, I don't need that kind of clarity. So that was it. And at that moment, yeah, that put me on my knees actually, because I kind of knew it was coming. And what's funny, the things that go through your mind is I had looked up uh, uh, life expectancy with this disease, and the numbers 3, 20, and 8 come up, meaning your life expectancy is a minimum of 3, a maximum of 20, and an average of 8. And so that's why this Ironman thing came into my mind, because I was doing the math. I said, okay, I always thought I would go to Ironman in Kona, at age 75. And if I did the math, okay, this plus where I'm at right now, I wouldn't be able to make it. I would be under the thing. And so that's how I ended up getting into Ironman Kona. I had called, because it's a race that you have to qualify for. And these are all genetic mutants. And I'm an average one of these people. And so I got in on an exception. So that's how I got it. I was doing Ironman before, but the goal for me was always to get to Ironman Kona. And I figured at age 75. And now it was like, okay, I might be behind my sell-by date on this.
So when did you start training for Ironman Kona? Like, and what?
It's weird because it was actually in 2019 when I got the diagnosis, but it took me 3 years of COVID delays to get there. And I finally got there, and it was awesome. I had a bunch of high school friends, some people that I didn't even know that I had just met on Instagram came over. So we had a big crew. Yeah, it was very fun.
Was that your very first Ironman, or was that
I've done a few. Yeah. Okay. First one for me was Wisconsin. I've done Lake Tahoe, Ultraman, not Ultraman, but oh gosh, I'm not thinking of the other one. I can't think of the other one right now.
So, but that's amazing. What do you get? We all know exercise is good for the brain, yeah. But what do you think exercise does for you now that you have a diagnosis of, right, mild cognitive impairment?
Yeah, I think it's the number one, like if you put it in order, when we were talking before, it would be exercise, diet, brain engagement, sleep. But exercise, movement is medicine, and for your brain as well, because it gets the blood flowing and all of that. And I think the research that's coming out is supportive of that as well. So I just know that I feel great when I do it. I feel like I'm punching the disease in the face as I'm doing this. And so I've never had I've had runs that are hard, runs that are, are long rides that I wish would end, but I always feel great when I'm done because I feel like I'm keeping the disease at bay.
So when you exercise, like, I guess the way to ask this question too is like, when you don't exercise, do you notice there's a difference?
Yeah, a little bit. It's more of I don't know if it's the placebo effect of just, getting that runner's high or that bike ride and all that. So, but I'm doing something every day. I'm not always, like some days it'll be just a walk or something like that. Like we did a 5-mile walk before this. But I try to get a couple things in.
Usually. What is your training schedule like when you're training for an Ironman?
Yeah, well, it depends on when you're getting into it. You're usually doing it. It would be, for me, 2 to 3 runs a week, two for sure 2 bike rides with 1 long one in there, like a 50-miler or something like that. Depends if you're doing a half or a full. A full is a very different animal than a half, even though it's only twice as long. It's about 4 times the effort level. So if you're doing a half, that's something I can cork off pretty easily with just decent training. Not be super competitive, but have a great day still. And so that's where I'm at right now. And my goal is to make it to 2040 when they say that I will not be on this planet. And I've invited everybody you're invited to come with me back to Kona in 2040.
That's amazing. So yeah. You have a lot of Ironmans between there.
I've got North Carolina coming up. That's good. My shoulder's got to get healed first. And so the first one that I'll do, my son is actually my coach.
That's amazing.
I know. And he's actually in New Zealand right now, competing in the World Championships for the 70.3. So he's fast. My wife and I have very bad genes, but apparently our kids don't. So,
wow, that's amazing. So tell me, we have a question actually that was somebody had written in, and Lisa said, we'd love to hear what else you're doing to combat the disease and slow it down.
Yeah, sure.
We know exercise, but what else? Did you change diets?
Yeah, completely. I'm a huge believer in the Mediterranean diet. There's a gal on Instagram that I follow that I really love, Dr. Annie Fenn. She's called the Brain Health Kitchen. She's got all kinds of great recipes. I bought her cookbook. She's fantastic. So I live that. I will never eat ice cream again. I will never eat most meats. I'll eat chicken and fish, and that's it. So all the things that I really love, I don't eat. And it hasn't been a big give up because the battle's too important for me on that side. So that hasn't been hard at all.
So, and then Lisa, I don't know if this is the same Lisa, but another Lisa or the same Lisa is also asking, what can we do better to support people with a diagnosis and their caregivers?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I'll tell you what wasn't helpful for me is that, so like when I got diagnosed, my mom wanted so badly to save me. She was always bringing me articles about Alzheimer's and this and that. And, I got the people at Mayo, I've got a huge thing. And she's just, Mom, I got this. I know you're worried and all that, but I am doing everything I can. And so just be with them. I mean, just be and ask them what they need, I guess. It's pretty simple.
I'm thinking, because you are obviously managing very well, we're having a conversation, and I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time with you, but we could definitely have a conversation and I wouldn't think, oh, this is a person with Alzheimer's, right? Just because you're very high functioning and early stage. Do people treat you differently when you tell them, or do you tell people I have a diagnosis?
Yeah, I'm very honest with it and open about it, because I want to find, I mean, one of the biggest things I had when I got diagnosed, I didn't know anybody with the disease. And so I just was trying to find people and find out what they were doing, because I wanted to learn from them about the things you can do. So like, the exercise, diet, brain engagement, sleep. I do a ton of stuff. I've got like 440 days of Duolingo learning Spanish. I do all the New York Times puzzles and all that kind of stuff. There's not great evidence that helps. Maybe that just makes you better, but it doesn't hurt. Sudoku, you name it. So a lot of those kind of things that I try to work on. I play video games, which I'm hoping is good. My wife thinks it's bad, but she's we're pretending that it's good. So because I like doing it. So
there's actually very mixed views about that.
I know, but I'm willing to look beyond the science and go with it.
So Dan, tell me a little bit about, I want to know what the doctors communicated. I mean, you told me that comment about the autopsy, and I thought
he's no longer my doctor, by the way.
So. Yeah, that's pretty darn depressing.
Right.
But so you've had cognitive testing. You haven't had a PET scan or a lumbar puncture? Have you had?
I have had both of those. Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And then
and that has and you're asking about the amyloid. Yes. So there is something there, but I don't remember the exact amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
That's
so
a little, you can see there's a little bit of the disease coming at me, because I don't remember all of the specifics.
So can we ask?
You can ask anything. Yeah.
Are you on any medications? Are you taking Aricept, Namenda?
Aricept. Yep. And then Namenda. No, I'm not taking Namenda, but I'm on Aricept right now, and we're looking at, like I said, what the other ones are.
The monoclonal antibody therapies.
Yeah.
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 Have your doctors told you maybe you should consider them? Or
yes. And before, I was a little bit, because I feel like I've been so stable, and I was just really, it's like, okay, well, I'm hanging out in a very good spot. My cognition has been pretty flatlined for 5 years, which is good, I think. And so I was just, I just didn't want to, because I have the one APOE gene. I don't want to, and I have a brain bleed in my head from something else. I wasn't ready to do it, but now I am.
Yeah. The risk factors obviously for side effects are greater in people with E4, right? So
yes.
I guess that came under consideration.
Yeah.
But tell me from your perspective, though. I mean, it's amazing. You've been living with a diagnosis for 5 years, and you've said you feel like you have really stayed the same, right? It doesn't seem like you've. How does the disease present itself to you, though? Are there times where you feel like, oh wow, I'm really forgetful, or
Yeah, I mean, there will be times like I'll walk into a room and I'm like, okay, why did I come in here? I guess everybody has that to a degree.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so it's things like that, but it's just more so like the daily routines that I know that we have. It's like that short memory table. If I have too many of them on, I can't remember it. And then and we have a big calendar now, so you figure out ways to trick it, or to manage it, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
And I've got a great partner. My wife's unbelievable. So, and she's just, I mean, very, very patient with this stuff. And I think it's hard for everybody. I think it's tough. It's been tough on my daughter, just the whole, what's going to happen next and when.
Yeah.
So there's all that. I mean, that's all very real and very hard. And I think my hope is we find some kind of fix for this, so it doesn't get to my kids and my grandkids. And I think, and coming from a world of economics, we can't afford it. I mean, the economics of people being pulled out of their jobs at their highest earning times, and then having to have another person pulled out of the workforce to help them. I mean, I've been in DC with the Alzheimer's Association and talking to the congressional people. It's like, it's too expensive. It will blow up the budget. I mean, even though we're doing a poor job of that anyway right now, but it's coming. And if we don't do something to slow it, it's gonna really overwhelm us at some point.
Do you feel like you have control? I mean, because you are doing, like, do you feel you have control over the disease at this point?
I mean, I know it's there, and I know it's not it's relentless, and it's coming at me every day. But I get up every day and tell it I'm still standing. I do. I talk to it. It's a little crazy, but yeah. I mean, I'm a competitive guy, and I'm trying. I mean, my goal is to be the first survivor, and I tell people, don't bet against me. I know the odds, but don't bet against me.
I'm coming 2040.
2040. Yeah, you put it on there. Yeah,
that's amazing. Well, you certainly are an inspiration to many people. I mean, you're, in your 50s. It's a really young age to face Alzheimer's, but it's not stopping you. So congratulations, and really defining what it's like to live with Alzheimer's, right?
I've met a lot of great people, and there's so many people, and I just want to find a way to serve this community in any way that I can. And so, I would just tell anybody that's close to it, get out, go run, go, movement is medicine. Get your brain moving, get your body moving. It will elongate your life. Nothing stops. We all end up in the same place, but you can have a much better life if you do that.
100%. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. And we're cheering you on from the sidelines.
Thank you. All right. Remember,
I hope your shoulder gets better so you can keep competing, more frequently. But
I will.
Congratulations to you. And thank you so much for sharing your story. If any of you missed this, go to beingpatient.com. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. We always tell you about interviews like Dan, but I love these type of interviews. You're really the best, and really defining how to live with Alzheimer's. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Speak soon.